Good day, folks, and welcome to another edition of Lumberjack Logic. This isn't the video you want. We just suffered a stinging, cataclysmic defeat in Arizona. It's bad, okay? It's terrible. Mark Elias is taking a victory lap on Twitter. Hang with me through this video because you are going to see courtroom clips, and I'm going to break down and show you where this all went wrong. This is a bad argument case, okay? And so when you parallel this to another case that we're watching in Arizona right now, you're going to see vast differences. And I read a book one time by Ted Cruz, and he talked about going into the courtroom and having the convincing argument and the right argument and the one that'll carry the day. It doesn't matter if you're right, wrong, anything. You have to have the argument that carries the day. It's really disappointing that in Kari Lake's case, with all the firepower she's got, but with 17,000 votes, that same firepower couldn't have been brought to Abe Hamadeh's case where the difference was only 511 votes. Now, there's a lot of reasons being given for this loss ex post facto. Some have some validity, but the bottom line is it doesn't matter. You have to go into court prepared with the time in the case that you have. So Abe is saying, based on constraints imposed by us in the court and the obstruction by the opposing side, we were only given 6 hours with 3 people to go through 2.5 million ballots. They were never going to go through 2.5 million ballots anyways. There are thousands of uncounted provisional ballots. Thousands of voters were disenfranchised. Election day in Maricopa County was a disaster. Well, you had to prove that in court, and you're going to see. I watched a lot of this case as it was live streamed, and I just didn't see where this attorney brought all this to light. And then he says Maricopa County was given 3 weeks to count ballots. We were given 6 hours. Fine, but you've got to do something with those 6 hours. You just have to build a case to at least allow it to continue on, to at least give yourself a chance to appeal instead of just having the thing tossed. So without further ado, I'm going to bring you into a couple clips here. There was more of this, but I just want to show you that these lawyers on the defense side were calling for sanctions.
I mean, I don't know what more could be sanctionable here. After judgment today, there is no need to waste any more time on this case. And to consider our sanctions motion that will follow. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
After trial, plaintiffs have not presented any evidence whatsoever to support their allegations. Pima County defendants respectfully request that the court find that plaintiffs have failed to prove their allegations and render judgment in their favor and provide such other and further relief as appropriate.
Okay, so watch this guy, Lasota, respond to this. You know, they're calling for him to be disbarred, right? I mean, sanctioned. I mean, they want him disbarred, unable to practice law. And this guy all of a sudden tosses the case out the window and jumps to his own defense in front of the judge. This is wild. And what's really funny is I pulled this off a Rumble stream and look at these two guys on the side. I mean, it's not funny, but it is funny. Watch their reaction.
So I'll start with Mr. Barr and his about the I don't know how many times he's accused me of unethical conduct in this proceeding, but largely it's another rehash of his failed motion to dismiss. I mean, the bottom line is in election contests, they're often not successful. They're probably unsuccessful. Well, I couldn't hazard a guess, but they're usually not successful. They have to be gathered very quickly under a very short amount of time with very imperfect information. And actually, I'll skip ahead to Mr. Gaona with his waste of time comment. I don't think that just because an election contest fails that we can categorically dismiss it as a waste of time. I think the election contest statutes provide a useful purpose, even if a case isn't always successful.
This is ridiculous.
We have a case here where it was decided by 511 votes. That's 0.02%, closest case in statewide history for a statewide candidate by percentage. And the notion that you know, if you didn't prove it in the end, you know, it was a complete waste of time and enough is enough. And we've had it with all these things.
He's given up on his own case and just trying not to get sanctioned at this point. This is absolutely ridiculous.
I think that obviously we asked for certain evidence that we didn't get. So, you know, we're being attacked for not proving counts that we asked for production of evidence that never happened. So, and on that point, I mean, there's definitely a wide disparity in judicial rulings as to the applicability of the other civil rules, specifically discovery. I think some courts have said it's available, some it hasn't. That's a legitimate dispute. This court said it's not, and that's just the way it goes.
So you would think, after watching that clip, the judge had already ruled, but the judge had not ruled. You have to understand, that is Lasota's final closing argument. That's his closing argument, his rebuttal to the defense attorneys in all of their arguments and their calls for him to be sanctioned. So the judge hadn't even ruled, and he's immediately jumping to his defense and has now thrown the case. And the craziest part is the judge was never going to sanction him. This judge was great. I'm serious. I was watching it while I was streaming with Brian Lupo over on Badlands Media, and I was thinking, wow, how did we get this judge? He's really good. In fact, the defense had objected to a witness answering questions 4 times, I saw, in just a span of a few minutes. And the judge overruled each time, said, look, just let the guy answer the question. If he can't answer the question, we'll just move on. And then on the last one, the judge said, I actually am really curious about the answer to that question, so I'll ask it. So don't go like, oh, this judge was so awful or anything like that. This is a case of showing up for court and not being prepared and not bringing forth a good argument. Period. Now I'm going to show you the judge's ruling, which happened immediately after the case was done.
The presumption that the election was done correctly, there isn't enough information. I wouldn't even think there's even slight information that something was done illegally or incorrectly. They just follow the procedures, and this is the way it works out. And unfortunately, when all the ballots that I looked at would, for the most part, these 14 ballots would be voter error, not filling them out the way the instructions say. That could have fixed these problems, these minor problems that I saw in these particular ballots.
I can't kid you, folks. This case is the biggest disappointment to me because it seemed so winnable. We're talking about 551 votes, and all they had to do, the judge allowed 4 of their 5 counts, and they didn't have to prove any sort of maliciousness or bad intent or anything along those lines. Just show that 551 votes were in doubt. Now, that would have been, why didn't they go after the issues of the long lines and have Richard Barris testify or do some of these other things? I know that time was short, but again, this is about picking a winning argument, and they didn't pick the winning argument. They pulled out 14 ballots and said 6 should go to Hamadeh. Well, great, but then you extrapolate that over the 50,000 ballots they're talking about, you don't win. You get a few hundred and you're still following up short. I was so frustrated with this case. I'm going to keep up on all these things going on in Arizona. So if you want to stay informed, subscribe to the channel. And also, please support my sponsor, Revere Coffee Company. That's reverecoffeecompany.com. Use promo code Lumberjack. You'll save 10% and support the show. Thanks so much. Love y'all. Peace out.